Welcome back, students. So today we are going to start with a new topic, that is learning, which is the part of your fourth chapter, that is cognitive processes. So we will understand what the learning is. When we talk in the layman's language, or as a student or as a teacher, if we say the word learning, it means that something you are going to learn, something really new, right? And when we talk in the education setup, mostly we think that it is related to books, it is related to mugging up the things, it is related to any new chapter, and that is what we associate learning with in our day-to-day life. But what actually learning is in a psychological perspective, that we are going to see in the today's topic. So, meaning and definition of learning. You might think of learning in the terms of what you need to do before an upcoming exams or acquiring the new skills like dancing or cycling, but it is only a small segment of the vast learning process which encompasses all areas of the life, including school learning, learning various skills, learning about the places and the people, and many more. So, when we understand the meaning of learning and what actually the learning process is, we will understand that it is very much in detail, and it comprises of all the areas of our life. So from the beginning till the end of the life, we keep on learning the new things, and that is what the learning process is. It is just not stuck related to the exams or learning any new skills, but it is more than that. And thus learning is a kind of process that every human beings use in their entire life. So from school learning till people and learning about the places and the more and more things. Okay, so we will understand the definition of learning with the help of activity 7. Read the following example and identify the duration of a change in the behavior. Rohit, an alcoholic, abuses people around him under the influence of alcohol. Uday is able to draw human figures well. You must have identified that the change in the behavior of the Rohit is temporary and the change in the behavior of Uday is relatively permanent. So, what is happening over here? That the change in the behavior of Rohit is temporary. So, over here, the change in the behavior is of short duration, right? It is temporary, whereas for the Uday, it is a kind of permanent change in his behavior. That means he can draw the human figures for the lifetime, but Rohit will only abuse the people when he is under the influence of alcohol. So that is why his behavioral change is temporary. Next, read the following examples and identify the reasons for the change in the behavior. Pratik learned to ride a bicycle by continuous repetitions. Akshay got an electric shock after putting his finger in a socket and so has stopped doing so. You must have identified the change in the behavior of Pratik must be due to practice, and the change in the behavior of Akshay must not be because of practice but rather than because of experience. So, in the first example, where Pratik has learned to ride a bicycle, it is only because of the practice. So, if we are learning any new skills, whether it would be swimming, cycling, or drawing, we learn those skills by continuously practicing about it, right? So first term that you need to remember when we're talking about learning is practice. Okay, and like the saying says that practice makes man perfect. So you need to remember that when we say a term learning, you should remember the term practice. The second most important term is experience. Through experience we learn many things. Same way, here it has been shown in the example of Akshay got an electric shock after putting his finger in a socket, and so has stopped doing so since he learned that if he puts up the finger in a socket he will get a shock, so he has learned through his experience, right? And he has stopped putting his finger in the socket through this experience. So he has learned through the experience. And that is why experience is always important when we are talking about the learning process. For example, if someone says, I'm learning dance, and your dance teacher is saying that she is experienced, trained in dance for 5 to 6 years. So that means because of her experience, she can easily teach you dancing. Okay, so that is why experience and practice goes hand in hand when we talk about the word learning, and that is what our definition of learning states. So to understand the definition we will read the 4 points in detail. Any temporary change in the behavior is not considered as learning. So, this is related to the first example that we saw of Rahul. His behavior was temporary and thus it is not considered as learning. Learning involves a relatively permanent change in the behavior. So it is a permanent change in the behavior. So that was the second example that we saw was of Uday, where he learns to draw a human figure, which makes a permanent change in her behavior. So even after 4 5 years, if we ask him to draw a human, he would be able to draw the human figure because he has learned it, and that learning has taken the place of permanent learning in his brain. Okay. Next is learning may take place because of practice. Correctly said. So without practice, you can't learn anything. So if you say I want to learn a musical instrument, without any practice, if you just keep on seeing the videos on the YouTube and you think you want to learn a musical instrument, you will learn, so that won't happen unless and until you take that musical instrument, you practice those instrument, it won't learning won't take place. So practice is the most important thing if you want to learn anything new in your life. The fourth thing is learning may take place because of the experience. In case if you have any particular experience of anything, then the learning can take place. Thus, learning can be defined as a relatively permanent change in the behavior that occurs due to experience and practice. Okay, so that is a permanent change in the behavior that is a result of experience and the practice. I hope you are clear with the definition. So now next we will focus upon the processes of learning. How the learning actually takes place are known as learning processes. Okay, so the first one is learning by classical conditioning. Learning by classical conditioning was explained for the first time by a Russian physiologist Ivan Pavlov through his experiment on the dog. So, this is a person who did a classical conditioning experiment. He is known as Ivan Pavlov and he has done an experiment on the dog. Now, we will see what experiment exactly he did. He inserted a tube surgically in a dog's salivary gland so that he could measure the amount of salivation. He then presented a sound of bell and the food one after the other several times and measured how much the dog salivated. After several trials, the dog started salivating to the sound of bell even when the food was not given. Based on this finding, Pavlov gave a theory of learning called as classical conditioning. Okay, so now what is exactly a classical conditioning? I will explain you through this image. This was the experiment done by Ivan Pavlov in his lab, where there was a dog and he inserted a tube in his mouth to measure the salivation of the dog. So what he did first is he presented an unconditioned stimulus, that is food, which gave a natural response of the dog salivation. Okay, so over your food gives a response of salivation, which is a natural response of the dog. So if he sees a food, he is going to salivate, and thus the food is called as a unconditioned stimulus. Okay, so it is not conditioned, thus it is unconditioned, so it is giving a natural response, and thus the dog is salivating. I hope you are clear with the first one. Now, the second step is introduction of a neutral stimulus. So, what Ivan Pavlov did is he introduced a bell, which is a neutral stimulus, and dog then responded to it because it was a neutral stimulus and he had no idea why the bell is ringing, right? So he did a no response over there, and thus it is known as a neutral stimulus. Fine. So food was introduced, he salivated. Bell was introduced, didn't give any response. Now what happens in the conditioning is that what Ivan Pavlov did is he rang the bell first and then he gave a food to the dog. Okay, so he did this several trials again and again. Like he rang the bell and he gave the food, he rang the bell and he gave the food. Okay, he did it for many days. Next, what happened is the dog got conditioned to the bell. So, what started happening is that whenever he used to ring the bell, the dog started salivating because he knew that the food will be given to him, right? So he got conditioned to the bell, right? So earlier he gave no response to the bell, and then after conditioning he gave the response to the bell. So this is known as classical conditioning. Now classical conditioning is being used by us in our day to day life. Now you will say that we are not dogs. How are we going to use a classical conditioning to learn anything? Right? So I will give you a simple example of classical conditioning used in your daily life, which is mentioned in your textbook. Classical conditioning in our daily life, we learn many things by classical conditioning. For example, when a small child is given an injection, he starts crying due to a pain. A small child slowly understands that whenever he visits a doctor, he is given an injection. When he understands the connection between a doctor and an injection, he immediately starts crying as soon as he reaches to the doctor. Okay, so what is happening over here? The child has learned association of doctor and injection. So he knows if he visits the doctor, he's going to get injection, and thus before visiting or seeing the injection, he starts crying. Okay, so what has happened over here? Classical conditioning has taken place. So this was a learning process of classical conditioning done by a Russian physiologist, that is Ivan Pavlov. He did an experiment of the dog where the dog was first presented by a natural stimulus or unconditioned stimulus, that is a food, where he gave a natural response of salivating. Second, then he introduced a neutral stimulus, that is a ringing of bell, and dog didn't give any response. Then the third thing he did is he did a conditioning of an unconditioned stimulus and the neutral stimulus, that is he presented a bell first and then he gave a food to the dog. So what happened in this process? The dog got conditioned to the bell. So what happened after conditioning is that whenever the bell used to ring, the dog used to salivate. So over here the conditioning has happened. So we use conditioning in our day to day life for the learning process. Now can you tell me what is the symbol of this? Which symbol is this? Of McDonald's, right? So what you can remember through McDonald's? burger, french fries. Okay, so I think you have already started tempting seeing the symbol. Okay, so this is what the people are using these days, or classical conditioning. So what happens over here is that whenever you see a symbol related to any company, right, you have that you start tempting about the food products or any other product that company is selling, because your brain has been trained with that classical conditioning of that particular image or hoarding. Okay, so this is classical conditioning that is being used by many advertisements. The other type of classical conditioning is food aversion. I will read it for you. Once the Jane had a flu. She was eating strawberries and felt nauseated and threw up soon after. Weeks later, she no longer had flu, but the next time she ate strawberry, she felt sick again. This is a classical conditioning is called as a food aversion. Jane learned to associate the feeling of becoming sick with eating strawberries. So again, over your food aversion happens when some food gives you the bad reaction. You learn that that particular food is not good for you. So what happens is that you next time when you are having or you see that particular food, you just avoid eating it. Okay, so that is a natural response that we are doing. So that is also a part of classical conditioning which is called as food aversion. So you can see that learning has been used in our day-to-day life. It is used almost in all the fields, and most of the time we get associated with the things so quickly. We learn by seeing the things and we get associated, and that is known as classical conditioning. And classical conditioning, the first experiment was done by whom? Ivan Pavlov. Okay, so with this said, I will stop here for today. In the next class, we will again begin with the processes, learning processes. There are three other processes that we are going to see in the next lecture. So, till then, bye, take care, and have a great day.